Xal'atath has been a looming threat since the end of Dragonflight. And although our understanding of her has evolved since we met her as a knife, one big question remains. Who is she? Really? Yes, we did get a lore-walking story about her, but it honestly raised more questions than it answered. What was she trying to steal from Ny'alotha? How did she become Demensia's Harbinger? What was she and N'Zoth whispering about when nobody else could hear? And we just recently got a video that supposedly explains who she was before she became a void entity, a question that the lore community has speculated on for a while now. And again, this really raises more questions than it answers. Sure, it confirms that Xal'atath wasn't always of the void, at least if we can trust what she is telling Salhadar, but for now, let's assume she at the very least isn't flat out lying. A lot of questions still remain. Who was she on this world of hers? What role did she play in the Void's destruction of her home? And is she saying that the Void fully transformed her from whatever she previously was into what we see in her lore-walking story? If that last point happens to be the case, which it seems to be, it wouldn't be the first time one of the cosmic forces has fully transformed a living being. There's several examples throughout the lore of this happening. A few notable examples being Magni, although we can't for sure say that Azeroth's power is a cosmic force, but that's a completely different video. Turalyon being light forged by the Naru Zera, who also attempted to do it to Illidan in one of the baddest cinematics in WoW history.
I am my scars! The light is your destiny! My destiny is my own!
And that same Naru succeeded in doing so with the Dreadlord Lothraxion, morphing the Dreadlord's attunement from death magic to light. And recently, I was reminded of something interesting about the Dreadlords. In Shadowlands, we learn that they are not in fact directly allied with the Legion, although many of them posed to be, including Lothraxion before his conversion. But were actually created by Daddy Denathrius as spies for the Realm of Death. I was listening to the Live Left Lore podcast a while back, RIP, and they mentioned a book that was found in the Shadowlands called Enemy Infiltration Preface. The author speaks about the unique challenges of infiltrating different cosmic forces, listing order, light, life, and void. We anticipate that certain of our targets will be more challenging to topple than others, but each is prone to manipulation in different ways, and our agents have already woven themselves into their very fabric. The Void Lords all but welcome us with open arms. They are so preoccupied with their 1,000 truths that they ignore the lies we sow in their very midst. I believe we can leverage their vast reach to position them as a foil against our other rivals. We remain wary though, since they are observant of multiple outcomes. It is conceivable they could anticipate our coming. You can probably see where I'm headed here. Could it be that Xal'atath is actually a Dreadlord, having infiltrated the Void on a mission from Sire Denathrius? On a purely technical note, yes, I believe it is possible. Dreadlords are infamous for not only infiltrating enemy forces, but of course also for their ability to shape change. Xal'atath could very well have posed as a denizen of this world that she showed Salhadar, knowing that a Void invasion was coming, or perhaps orchestrating it in the first place. Then, in true undercover fashion, slowly earned their trust until they swept her up to become one with the Void, just like the light did with Lothraxion. Keep an eye on Lothraxion, by the way. While it is true that Lothraxion has kept his Nethrazim body, I don't believe that it means that this has to be the case for Xal'atath as well. Dreadlords are known for having souls that transcend their physical bodies. When killed, they would normally reconstitute in the Twisting Nether, although that's when they were demons, so it's a little unclear how it works for all Nethrazim. Either way, if the Void snatched up her soul instead of letting it go back to Daddy D perhaps, then it is entirely possible that they took her soul and fused it with Void energy. Now, just because it's possible doesn't mean that it's plausible. Based on what we know about Xal'atath's motivations, endgame, and modus operandi, does it line up with Daddy D's and the rest of the Dreadlord's agenda? Let's compare them, and remember that the orders that Dreadlord Xal'atath would have been sent out under would have been those of the Jailer's motivations. I know, but those are the canon motivations for Denathrius and, at the time, the Dreadlords. Just roll with it. Xal'atath seems to want to conquer Azeroth. So do the Dreadlords. Xal'atath wants to amass an enormous amount of power. So did Denathrius. Xal'atath uses manipulation to get those around her to do her bidding, allies and enemies alike. So do the Dreadlords. Come to think of it, most of Xal'atath's tactics come down to manipulation. She manipulated the Nerubians and used their whole kingdom for her plans, to amass more power into the Darkheart. She has continually been manipulating Illyria, and it seems like, treading on some spoiler territory here, she might be able to push Illyria over the edge in Midnight to abandon her family and embrace the Void completely. And in that latest cinematic, she is masterfully telling Salhadar what he needs to hear to join her cause. She knows how he thinks and plays him like a fiddle. Usually, the Void relies on promises of power, yes, but those promises are almost always accompanied by whispers of madness and in the end, insanity. Yogg-Saron drove the entire Titan Keeper host of Ulduar mad. Y'Sharosh twisted the minds of the Pandaren and Garrosh alike, and N'Zoth had to drive Neltharion completely mad in order to turn him into Deathwing. Illyria is the perfect example of this, as she isn't connected to any of the old gods, but instead is hosting pure void inside of her, and she is constantly berated by maddening whispers that try to make her lose grip of reality. Xal'atath doesn't really do any of that. She manipulated us in BFA, true, but not with maddening whispers, but with a silky tongue. She didn't drive Iridikron insane to get him to work alongside her. She aligned with him strategically, and he followed. Xal'atath convinced Queen Ansarek to murder her own mother and lead her people in a war against the rest of the world. But she used the desire for reclaimed glory to get her way, not the whispers of 1,000 truths. The old gods seem to agree. In the last chapter of Xal'atath's lore walking, the commander that acts as our quest giver says,
"This creature, Xal'atath, is not like Lord N'Zoth and his kin. She does not appreciate their power or our Black Empire."
The Void sent the old gods to Azeroth, and Xal'atath doesn't agree with what they are doing? She betrayed Demensius when she was her harbinger because she wanted to be free, and in 11.2, she was the deciding factor that stopped the return of Demensius. While it's true that void creatures in general are always out to devour each other, or at the very least are always vying for power, she seems to be so actively working against the overall goals of the void. Why is that? Could it be because she isn't actually Team Void? Is all of her manipulation tactics and her silky tongue a trail back to her Nathrezim roots? Is she actually gathering all this power so that she can
survive what is to come?
I'm sorry for that jump scare. I dislike using Zoval quotes and footage as much as you do, but it comes with the territory. We know for a fact that Sire Denathrius is still out there. His Dreadlords are most likely putting all their efforts into restoring him and getting him out of that blade. Could Xal'atath be amassing this power in order to restore her old master? Or has she gone rogue and realized that she can be even greater than her creator? I think the answer to that last question is probably yes, whether she's a Dreadlord or not. Time will tell, and I for one can't wait to learn what Xal'atath's actual endgame is. But what do you think? Have you been convinced by my manipulation and silky tongue? Or do you see through the lies of the void and know who Xal'atath really is? Let me know in the comments below. I live for this kind of speculation. Until next time, take care.